Hey, everybody. It's so good to be here with you. It is so good to be here with you. I'm going to wait for people to load on. I see. Yeah, there are people here. I'm very, very excited to be back. It has been a smashed full week, smashed full. And what I want to share today is why wool. And I'm going to give you, and then what to do to get started on our project, which I've been only waiting half a year for. I love this. I love this. Okay, the case for wool. We're going to talk about that. Okay, hold on. I've got to. So, Paul sent me this picture. Not quite yet, honey. Oh, kitty. Paul sent me this picture. What a spectacular bouquet made out of ties and pins and all sorts of good stuff. She's not cooperating, is she? Huh? Sniff around. So, Paul, thank you for sending that. But also, Paul sent me this, which I think is flippin' hilarious. And hi. Hi, baby. Oh, she's not happy. Paul sent me this. My daughter was grossed out. I think it's hilarious. So, Paul, you sent me the starter kit, and I have a new cat. Yes, I do. So when I left off with you guys before we went away, oh, look at her. She is so good. She is so good. So here's the story. As I told you before I left, I was going to go over and meet Pugsley and Wednesday. They were in a situation where they need to be rehomed. And this is Pugsley, sweet, sweet kitty. And here is Wednesday, sweet, sweet kitty. Pugsley's a little more nervous than Wednesday. And they live in Hayward or Castro Valley. I forget. But anyways, we went there and I told Amanda, that's the cat's mommy, that, yeah, we probably would take them. And as we drove away, they're long hairs. I mean, really long haired. And as we drove away, common sense hit me in the head because number one, John's allergic to cats and he could handle one cat, but two long hairs, I don't think so. And then I started reading about taking care of long-haired cats, and one of the issues is they get like thistles, those little round things that have sticky sides on them in their hair, and then they can eat it, and then it can be a total mess. And there was no guarantee I could keep them as indoor cats. I don't know. So I told Amanda, I actually texted her when we got back. She called me and she hadn't gotten my text, and it broke my heart to not be able to take those cats because they're great cats. They're in an impossible situation, and she's still looking for someone to take those cats. So in the meantime, I I went to I got Lennox, and we went to the Valley Humane Society in Pleasanton. It is equal to the Hilton. I mean, unbelievable how they treat the animals. I have PTSD of when I was a kid walking down the aisle and there's cats and dogs barking in cages and nothing like that. One of the things they do is they put the animals in foster care until there's room at the Valley place. And there the the foster parents can take you, can be with them. Okay, Alex, concentrate. I'm thinking of other things, and that's not good. The foster parents can then write down what they need and what their needs are. So this little kitten is actually a year old, and it was the sweetest of the litter. That's what was written up, and can sleep with you, doesn't wake you up, has her eat time, play time, and then sleep time. She is so sweet. But I took Lennox with me this round because I was pretty sure I was going to get one. And again, there were four sisters in this room, and Lennox just went straight to that cat. And then she sat down on the floor, and started crying, holding the cat because she wanted to take them all. And I'm like, no, can't do that, can't do that. So we are now trying to name the cat. I kind of like Noodles, but I don't know. I can't anyways. So here she is. She is so good. And she's a lap kitty. And I wanted a lap kitty. So she's potty trained, not even an issue, as cute as can be. And so I'm doing an ad now for the Tri Valley Animal Shelter in Pleasanton. She's been chipped, she's been fixed, she's been shotted, and the adoption fee is $100. Yeah. So, anyways, that's the first thing that happened. I've gotten some email. You vote for, you know what, Carol? Why does everybody keep bringing up Willow? Everybody keeps bringing up Willow. That is so weird that you're bringing it up. That is so weird, okay? Because that is a top list. Maybe I said it somewhere, or John said it somewhere. Anyways, okay, so here we're going to go up to some things that you sent me, and I'm going to share with you a story today that us as a collective is a love story to us. It is profoundly, profoundly meaningful, and so we'll get there in a moment. But in the meantime, doggone it, Carol, everybody's saying Willow. I got this from Trudy, and I thought this was fun. She did this as a scrap quilt. She cut up a bunch of squares. I can't remember if she got like pre-made squares or whatever, but basically she just would sew one to another one. So now you've got two, and go through your sewing machine with all that, chain it through, and then do foursies. Now we've got, if you do two, then you got four, and so forth. And she didn't like stress over what's going with what or whatever. And it was just random. And I think it's great. Okay. So thank you for sharing that idea. Kimberly Bobbin is another one. There's another one we're looking at. All right. I got to pay attention here. So Robin sent me this. And Robin goes to my retreat. She's a buddy of mine up in Santa Rosa. And I'm just throwing this out to you that this was gifted to the baby. And the first thing that happened was the baby was on the other side. Well, that's not a baby, but just dove in to that Shannon fabric, just dove into it and snuggled on it. If you're making a baby blanket or a blanket for somebody that's infirmed or whatever, you might really want to consider putting Cuddle on the back of it by Shannon. I don't know that I would want to machine quilt it, even with my Q20, but certainly you could take it to a long armor and it would be fine to do. Robin, my girlfriend, she actually did a beautiful, very beautiful, sophisticated silk quilt and put that on the back of it so it could be a snuggle quilt for the family. So thank you. Okay, so I got to get my notes. Here comes the story. I got an email in Gmail and it had all these pictures and I'm just going through them, and then it's from Joyce, and then she put it in a schematic and told the story. If this isn't a testament to what we have done, since the onset of COVID, I don't know what isn't. So Joyce, let's just start with the quilt that she made. Joyce made this quilt and she made it with her friend, and they went on to Electric Quilt, I think EQ, and picked out blocks that told their life story, and they made identical quilts. All right, and there is a story behind this which I will share in a moment, but they made a label and it's about the quilt's provenance, and this is a story. So let's take and it was several pages long, the whole thing. And I think about, quilts that we do and we don't write down the provenance, and 100 years from now nobody's going to know, nobody's going to care. There's going to, oh, that was made in 2024 or whatever. This is the story. This is the story so far. So here there are pages of this. And I love that She is putting it as the online thing that we're doing together. And they actually bought a bundle that was beautifully curated by Kristen and Suzanne to make this quilt. And then they threw in some other ones. All right. So here's Joyce's quilt again. I adore it, and this is their pattern. This is their story. This is their life together. Okay, let's take a look at Kristen's. Or is it Christy? Let me see. It's Christy's quilt. And by the way, Joyce's quilt was quilted by Joyce, and Christy's quilt was quilted by Teresa Silva of Quilting is My Bliss. And we're going to look at the quilting in a little bit. Okay, so what's the backstory? The backstory, this is called the BFF Project, all right? Joyce was diagnosed with cancer, and she's not as lucky as I have been. It's not a good ending for Joyce. So it was very important for Joyce and Christy to get together and make these quilts, the BFF Friend Quilt. And so here it is at their quilt show, hanging side by side. I'm telling you, this just took my breath away. All right. I don't know that I would have the gumption to be able to do this if I was terminally diagnosed, but certainly Joyce and Christy were. So here is quilting. Okay, this is Joyce, and you can see underneath the pear is a butterfly. And she said in the Providence, when you see a butterfly, think of me. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on this quilt. When you see a butterfly, think of me. And then this is Christie's owl. You can see the brown triangles at the bottom. There's an owl in there. And the owl represents the wisdom that her father imparted on her, and he has since passed, but she tries to be the person that her father would want her to be. BFF in the Suns. BFF. Let me see what Joyce's last thing. So then Joyce, this was the last image that she sent me, and I took a clip of it so that you can all just read it. Joyce talked about how meaningful my friends are. I don't have a huge cachet of friends, but man, those friends that I'm friends with, it is deep, and it is deep love. And I believe Joyce and Christy have been friends since the mid 70s. I'm celebrating my girlfriend's big birthday. We've been friends, for 42 years on Wednesday. So let's just let this sink in. Okay. What we have created here is amazing. And who would have thought at the beginning of the pandemic that we would be here today? I mean, we all thought it was a 1 month thing, right? And here is, I called an online guild, and Joyce referred to it as that. We are a community of people who are there, even though we're not there physically, we are there, and we are there for each other. And I've seen it. I've seen it in spades. I've seen it. Okay, so this is Caroline's, and it was hanging at her quilt show. Yay, I love seeing these quilts. And there were a bunch of these in Paducah too. Oh my gosh, Paducah was amazing. And again, Providence. And I think, it's not about giving anybody credit, although you always should give credit, like Wendy Williams here, where credit is due, but it's Providence. And then I ran into Dawn, and let me make sure I've got everything. Dawn, I've known Dawn like forever, okay, through a mutual friend. And this is a quilt that she did, and Joy Graff. I want you to look at the quilting on it. I'm going to say this about the quilts that were in Houston. I'm sorry, in Paducah. It shook me to my core how beautiful they were. I'm so glad I wasn't judging. I don't want to judge. Look at that. Look at that. So congratulations on that, Dawn and Joy. Beautiful. And then I met Carol, the person I have been stalking. She did the wool color my world. And we've been watching that come along. It was her very first quilt. I should have inserted a picture here. I'm sorry, but if you've been here for any length of time, you know. So that quilt that we just shared of the cotton color my world, Carol did it in wool applique. So I could get in there and get pictures and really see. I mean, look at those sheep. Look at the kitty up in the green the attic of the red house. It's just unbelievable. And here's another. And her doggie had passed. And I know she put her little doggie in there somewhere. I don't know if it's this block. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I would like to think you could really only get that detail with wool. If you start looking like at the tall church or whatever with a clock in it, I don't know how you could do that. And her work was impeccable. In fact, it was again her first quilt. So this is what she did, and is brilliant. She made a jacket with that on the back, so she could be identified and match with her quilt, which was upstairs. Okay. So here's another one with Patty. Okay, this is another case for wool. John, I was basically chained to the booth, so I'm enjoying a lot of the quilts that you're enjoying via our newsletter. And this is also wool. John grabbed me because he said, that is a black quilt. And we're going, no, it's a blue quilt. And then we could tell when you looked at it against the black drape, no, it's blue. But look at the wool work on this. This is the center. It is absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So, what I'm going to do is I want to talk about characteristics of wool and why you would want to use wool. And so, in your kit, you've got Sue Spargo wools, okay? And when I go to my local quilt shop, I think they're in, I don't think Fat Quarters, I think Fat Ace. I'm really not sure. But we knocked ourselves out to curate the collection in the box because wool is expensive. We actually cut sizes to about what you would need. So like for this little gnome here, you get a little square for the hat. You know, you don't have to buy a whole bunch and then go from there. You don't have to do that. But let's talk about wool, okay? Let me go back here. Why? Why wool? I'll tell you, it is super easy to work with. If you're not a hand worker, you might go, oh, if you're interested in trying it, this is the time to do it because I'm going to be taking you through very basic stitches, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And in full disclosure, I learned from Sue Spargo. And what happened was this weekend I thought, well, I better start looking at some wool videos. And there's tons of different ways to do it, but I'm doing it the Sue Spargo way. So I want to give full creds to her. And I would strongly recommend that you sign up for her newsletter. They're like opening a package of something just yummy and wonderful a lot. They come out a lot. And every Monday there's usually a lesson, which I just adore. Okay. So why is wool so great? Well, when it's felted up, it felts up tightly. And that is what they have done for you. And by felting it, they dye it and then they, wash it and they shrink it. It shrinks. And then what happens is the edges don't fray so easy. All right. Now felt, okay, wool is a natural fiber. All right. Felt, and I did not know this, okay, and I learned this via Sue, is a dense, non-woven, and it's pressed together, and it's a synthetic, all right? So it's pressed together by moisture, heat, and pressure, all right? Whereas wool is woven and is ready for them to dye, all right? Needles are very, very important when we're working with wool, and in fact, let me get to the kit here. In the kit, I mean, you'll end up, if you get into this, with 10,000, get over there, guy, 10,000 different needles. But I felt like for us to get going, it's in the kit, little Sashiko needles, all right? And the reason I like Sashiko, this is a very nice high-end brand, okay? And if you're doing it with your own wool, we've got this stuff on the site. That's not an issue. But the thing with it's by Lucien, Lecien, and they are Sashiko. And the reason we want Sashiko, and we've gone through this before, is when you start doing things like French knots and stuff like that, if you go up in the needle and it bubbles out, you're going to want to cry, all right? Whereas Sashiko pretty much goes up the same. So when you start, and we are going to be doing French knots on here. So when you do French knots and get into even more complicated stitches, you want a needle like that, all right? Then let me see, washing wool. Now this particular project, you aren't going to wash, all right? I mean, it's a cute little wall hanging that you can do a pillow out of, make a purse out of it, whatever you want. But let's say you're making a wool quilt and you know it is going to be used. Even though, and I'm working again with Sus Fargo wools, you'll be working with Sus Fargo wools, even though they have washed it and rinsed it and all that, it can still run. And this is because whatever they wash their water, they wash their product in, might have a different chemical makeup than our water. And red can be very suspect. So you would need to do that if this pre-washed, and make sure you're in good shape before you consider doing it into something you'll use. Okay, so what about this? What about this little guy right here? Don't tip over. So what would I do if this got dirty? I learned this on Simply Quilts back in the day on HGTV. You take a vacuum cleaner, you know, the kind with a tube that sucks, you know, long tube, and you put a nylon over it. And then you just go on your piece with the nylon and it will suck up the dirt. In fact, I'm falling apart here. We have a Pat Hawley Sue Nichols quilt in our living room, way up high, silk. It's beautiful, and I know it's dirty. Well, I'm not going to wash it, so I'm going to get it down and I'm going to do the vacuum thing. All right, just test. All right, just test all hand dyes, and that includes like Ricky's hand dyes, or whomever's, okay, if you know this is going to be washed. The other thing is in Livermore, I don't really want wool clothing because we get moths, all right? Now, what it's recommended is that you don't store wool in dark places or anything like that where the moths can settle in. But what Sue was saying in her email was that they get the material raw from the mill, so chances are there's not going to be any larvae or anything like that. However, if you find you have, this is crazy, you people, if you find you've got moths in a situation, you take that situation, you put it in a muslin bag or something like that, and you put it in your freezer for a week, and it will kill it. All right. So, and I've heard that before too. So where are we at with time? Oh, we're absolutely perfect. All right. So let's talk about, we do have some kits left. What am I doing here? Okay, so I'm going to go over in the kit what you're going to get. And again, I mind you, we have done everything we can to conserve the money for you. When you fall in love with this process, you will be you won't worry about how much you have because you save everything. And I'm going to talk about all this in a moment. And then you've got your palette, your paint palette of stuff. So here's another way we tried to save you money. Well, we did, not tried. Typically, this is Wonderfill. It comes on spools. Well, we knew you wouldn't need very much of this, so they actually wrapped this for us, okay? They did this so that you would not have to buy the whole spool. You can get into trouble with threads. Ask me how I know. And again, you will get the needles with it. And then as far as the fabric goes, I mentioned there's all different size cuts in here so that you've got enough for the green background, you've got enough for the hat, you've got enough for the body. And the ticket here is that when you cut out the wool, you are not going to go to the center and cut it out. You're going to be as precious with this wool as you possibly can. So what we're going to do before Wednesday is it would be nice if you pieced the back. So let's talk about that and the pattern that Kristen put together. Okay. I think she just did a spectacular job. I want to say one more thing about wool. Let me get out the thing I want to say about wool so I don't forget it. Here we go. Okay, let me just say it right now, okay? Not all wools are created equal. This is a fairly loose woven wool with this texture in here. I mean, I could have used it for the background. However, for things like these dots and stuff like that, you don't want to use this. You want to use a tighter wool that has been pulled together. I also, for the circles and stuff like that, use my Go cutter, all right? Okay, so let's look at the pattern. Here's what you get. And remember, this isn't like when you do a 1/4 inch and everything has to be perfect, all right? This is kind of close enough. I need a ruler. Here we go. Okay. What Kristen has done is she has labeled all the wool pieces and what they are, and she's labeled all the thread. And what you're going to do, and then you'll see here's the glossary of what we're going to be learning and what we're going to be doing. And let's talk about the background, all right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. I am going to measure, say, spring leaf. And it goes all the way down here. What number am I looking at? It's about 9 inches, 9 inches tall. So I would cut the square at 9.5, right? And then it is 4 inches wide. So that I would cut the rectangle at 4.5. So you would have 9.5 by 4.5. You add the extra 1/2 inch to this, all right? And right here it says it's spring leaf. So you would go up here and find spring leaf and then match it up to what's in your kit. So I think she's done a wonderful, wonderful job. And then the other thing I learned from Sue is that, let me do this, is that when you go to sew this thing together, the background, I pressed the seams open, and when you press the seams open, you want to have the thread match as closely as possible to your pieced unit. And this is when I get back and I just totally push this, okay? If I had, say, a neutral on my bobbin, a neutral 80, I could put one of these greens on top, piece with it, all right? It's an 80 also. And then I know it's not, the piecing's not really going to show the threads, all right? This is another thing that just surprised the heck out of me. When you press it open, you can really press the you-know-what out of it, and you get that sucker flat, all right? I would not press side to side. Let's not do that, all right? So here, let's just see if I can even pull this open and see if we can see anything. Let's see, get over here. See, you just can't see anything, all right? So that's what you're going to do before Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about cutting the shapes, adhering them to the pattern. I'm touching this like you can see it. And what may surprise you is we're not using any sort of what's that called? I'm doing a brain. Um, Fusible. We are not going to do fusible. Sue's contention, and I agree with her, is that, like, look at these leaves. There's so many stitches there. You put fusible on, then you've added a whole nother element to the issue. So we're going to do it without fusible. And what you might consider getting are these things. Or look and see what you've got in your sewing room. I happen to have these killer little applique pins that are like so small, it's ridiculous. I got them from a kit from Japan. So if you don't have that, I mean, I love my pins with Quilter Select, but leave it to Karen Kay. She's come up with perfect pins that are not as long and they're super fine. And the other thing that I saw, and I went, huh, you guys might have these sew tights in your stuff. You could sew tight the pieces down and then stitch around it, because basically what's going to happen is we're going to arrange this whole thing, and we'll talk about this on Wednesday, and then you are going to whip stitch it down all the way around, not whip, but just, stitches. And then you are going to then do all the decorative stitches on top. So basically, before I started doing all these decorative stitches, this whole thing was, it was all sewn down in place. All right. It's fun to do. Now, let me just take it another way. Let's say you were just going to do blanket stitching all around. I wouldn't, but let's say you're working on a quilt like that. Then if you use fusible, it's not that big of a deal because you're not in there doing all these fancy stitches. All right. So I am going to look at, yeah, sew tights are expensive. You got that right. But I will tell you this, Miss Kathy, Kathy Ewing, if you are a paid member of the Quilt Show, $49 a month, a year. Oh my God, $49 a year, best value in the world. Up in your dashboard in the upper right-hand corner, if you click in there, you get a 25% coupon and for a one-time shopping spree. So, I mean, I would for sure get this. All right, I love this. My buddy's coming over. I'm going to be actually scrolling back and looking at all the names. But if you ever wanted to try them, yeah, now's the time. This cat is so good. She is, and she's a purr monster. Okay. Okay, so Gail says she's not a fan of applique, a fusible in the applique. Yeah, I'll use it like when I'm doing cotton and it's raw edge on my sewing machine. All right. Are the background pieces sewn on a sewing machine? Yes, they are. Yes, I'm being kind to you there. She had an upper respiratory infection that they took care of at the Valley Humane Society, and I got to get her to the doctor anyways. Steam is your friend. You're right, Carol. Carol is the expert here. Steam is your friend. And also press on the back side when you open those seams, okay? Thank you, Carol. You're going to have my job here. Carol says, another Carol, I have all my pieces labeled so that I won't pick up and cut the wrong thing. And another thing I wanted to say to you. Let's just talk about, say, this green right here, and you figured out the size. There might be more green that you need. Again, don't cut it out of the center. Cut it as close to the edge as you could get, and then hang on to it, because wool is so expensive. You want to save every single precious little piece. All right. Okay, so milliners needles go straight up also. Yes, Suze recommends that you use them if you don't have a bullion needle. I like finer needles, which is why I landed on the Sashiko. But in the end, when you get into this, Okay, Carol said, she used 100% merino wool felt in my home. I do love Sue's wool. Oh, the other thing about Sue's wool too, because it's been hand dyed, there might be discrepancies in the in the color, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's the beauty of the beast. So don't freak out if there's like weird little blotches or this or that. My dad made quilt frames, and a couple of them had bird's eye. They were had bird's eye maple swirls, and one lady came up and goes, "I don't want that. I want a clear one." And I'm like going, "Are you crazy? You want the one with the markings and all that kind of stuff?" All right. I think we are good. I think we are good. So, Belinda, when you work on wool, don't blame me. Yeah, yeah. All right. I just so appreciate, you guys know this. I appreciate you so much and you spending time with me. And finally, we're on to this project. And I will see you Wednesday, okay? Oh, let me show you this. This is so cute. When we adopted her, they gave us a bag with food, a little thing of food, all sorts of little goodies. And then the other thing they gave her, let me unplug this. I hope I don't lose you if I unplug this. No. Okay. Was this little blanket so that she would have smells from her home. Every cat I've ever had lives in this, and she's marking me. Good girl. We love each other. Okay, craziness. See you guys later. Thank you. I appreciate. See you Wednesday. It's so great to be back with you. Bye bye.